December 26th, 2025, 9:42 p.m. Eastern. Let me ask you a question most people are afraid to even consider. What happens when a bankrupt government runs out of options? Not theory, not ideology, history, because this has happened before. And when it does, governments don't ask politely, they take. Tonight, we're going to talk about a topic that makes people uncomfortable, but ignoring it doesn't make it less real. The question is not if the US government faces a silver crisis. The question is, what happens when national survival collides with private ownership? Part 1. Why this conversation is happening now. Silver isn't just a commodity anymore. It's not jewelry, it's not a hedge, it's not even money in the traditional sense. Silver is now classified explicitly as critical to national security. It is embedded in missiles, fighter jets, guidance systems, power grids, solar panels, military communications, AI hardware. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The United States has no strategic silver stockpile. None. At the same time, industrial demand is exploding. Domestic production is stagnant. Global inventories are being drained. The US government is running historic deficits. The combination is not stable, and unstable systems don't preserve property rights. They prioritize survival. Part 2. The historical precedent no one talks about. Most people believe what happened in 1933 was a one-off. It wasn't. It was a playbook. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, requiring Americans to surrender their gold to the government at a fixed price. Refusal carried, heavy fines, prison sentences, criminal charges, and here's what most people don't realize. That executive authority was never meaningfully repealed. It was merely rendered dormant by circumstance. The legal framework still exists. What changed was necessity, and necessity is returning. Part 3. Why silver is more vulnerable than gold. Gold is held primarily as a monetary asset. Silver is not. Silver is consumed. It disappears into products. It cannot be easily recycled. It is essential, not optional. That makes silver uniquely dangerous to governments during shortages. When push comes to shove, policymakers don't ask, who owns this? They ask, who needs this more? And when the answer is military readiness, energy infrastructure, strategic manufacturing, private ownership loses the argument. Part 4. Confiscation doesn't look like confiscation. This is where people misunderstand risk. Confiscation doesn't mean agents knocking on doors. That's inefficient. That's visible. That's politically toxic. Modern confiscation is administrative, quiet, legal, technical. Let's walk through how it actually happens. Part 5. Executive authority and emergency powers. Under a declared national emergency, the president can restrict trade, requisition strategic materials, override contracts, redirect supply chains. Silver already qualifies as a strategic material. That means a simple declaration could suspend private trade, mandate, surrender to authorized buyers, set fixed prices. No debate, no vote, no warning. Emergency powers move faster than courts. They always have. Part 6. The Defense Production Act. Supply side seizure. The Defense Production Act doesn't touch citizens directly. It doesn't need to. It targets producers. Under the DPA, the government can require mines to sell 100% of output to the state refineries to prioritize government contracts, mints to halt civilian production. What happens then? The retail market disappears overnight. Not banned, not illegal, just empty. Confiscation through absence. Part 7. Financial confiscation, the tax weapon. This is the most politically palatable option, not seizure, taxation. A windfall profits tax framed as fairness, equity crisis. Response rates of 80 to 90% are not theoretical. They've been used before. The result? You keep the metal. The government takes the value. And resistance becomes socially unacceptable. Part 8. CBDCs, the digital blockade. This is where things get modern. A central bank. Digital currency doesn't need police, it needs code. Transactions can be approved, rejected. Flagged logged assets deemed non-productive or non-approved can simply be excluded. Not banned, just untradeable. Silver becomes legal, but economically isolated. That's confiscation without confrontation. Part 9. Data, the quiet enforcer. People assume anonymity protects them. It doesn't. Between IRS reporting rules, dealer compliance, digital payment trails, customs declarations. A detailed ownership map already exists. Enforcement doesn't require force. It requires leverage, and leverage is everywhere. Part 10. The psychological setup. Confiscation never begins with laws. It begins with narrative. Silver holders will not be called investors. They will be called hoarders, speculators, unpatriotic obstructionist. The message will be simple. You are standing between the country and recovery. This worked in the 1930s. It will work again. Part 11. Why governments always choose this path. This isn't about ideology. It's math. A government facing currency debasement, resource scarcity, strategic vulnerability will not sacrifice national continuity to protect private accumulation. Every empire chooses survival, every time. Part 12. What history teaches, not what it promises. This is not a prediction. It is pattern recognition. History does not repeat itself precisely, but it rhymes with disturbing consistency. In 1933, when Executive Order 6102 was issued, Americans responded in different ways. Some complied immediately, some delayed, some quietly ignored the order, and the outcomes were not uniform. But one truth cut across every category. Those who prepared early retained options. Those who waited were forced to choose from fewer and worse outcomes. Early preparation created flexibility. Late reaction created constraint. Not because those people were smarter, not because they had inside information, but because timing matters more than intelligence when systems change. History doesn't reward bravery after the fact. It rewards foresight before the shift. Part 13. Risk disclosure. Let's be clear. There are no perfect strategies. There never are. Every decision carries trade-offs. Every path carries uncertainty. Laws change. Policies evolve. Enforcement mechanisms expand. What works in one decade may fail in the next. This analysis is not advice. It is not instruction. It is not encouragement. It is an examination of how states behave under pressure, and states under stress do not act gradually. Markets whisper first. Governments act suddenly. The danger is not volatility. The danger is complacency during the quiet phase. Part 14. Why timing matters more than price. Most people fixate on price. They shouldn't, because when restrictions begin, price becomes irrelevant. When access is limited, liquidity disappears, markets fracture, optionality collapses. You cannot transact freely. You cannot adjust easily. You cannot respond in real time. History is clear on this point. Access matters more than cost. Those who act while systems are still open have choices. Those who wait for confirmation discover the doors are already closing. By the time certainty arrives, flexibility is gone. Part 15. The bigger picture. A dying system. Confiscation is not strength. It is desperation. It is not a sign of confidence. It is a sign of scarcity. It marks the final phase of trust erosion when voluntary compliance gives way to enforced participation. This transition follows a familiar arc, from abundance to scarcity, from voluntary markets to controlled ones, from paper confidence to physical constraint. Every empire that overextends financially eventually reaches this phase, not because of malice, not because of conspiracy, but because systems built on trust cannot survive indefinitely without resources to support them. Conclusion. This is how empires end. Empires do not collapse overnight. They tighten, they restrict, they rationalize, they justify, and eventually they reach inward. This is not speculation, it is precedent. The question is not fear, the question is awareness. Because when the rules change, they don't announce it politely, they enforce it. If this analysis helped you understand dynamics most people aren't even considering, like the video, share it, subscribe, because this story is unfolding in real time. And when governments act out of necessity, they do not ask for permission.